Despite its apparent simplicity, the topic of ad placement is actually quite deep and complex. We also have the main page, where we see sponsored display ads and DSP advertising. For example, here we see an ad for a product. Next, we see an entire carousel of sponsored display products, which works as retargeting. Then we also see more sponsored display ads. And in the sponsored display reports, we don't have a placement report that shows exactly where the displays appear, whether it's under the buy box, under the bullet points at the bottom of the page. It could be on the side of the search results page, or it could be a banner on the page. And figuring out how effective they are is pretty difficult. Plus, the effectiveness of these placements depends on whether we use a custom banner design, like here, or if we have a regular banner. Again, is it a standard Shop Now banner, or is there a banner with an Order Now button, which is available in the settings for our product, and you can buy directly from the ad banner? And I think everyone assumes that this topic is too simple, that it's not even worth discussing. But I think you'll still have questions during our first Zoom call, and I'll be able to draw your attention to aspects of placements that you might not have noticed before and help you look at them from a completely different perspective. This is both an opportunity to save money and a chance to increase your sales, and by setting up and optimizing your ads, competing with other companies. In our team, there's always the question of where this ad is being shown, how many ads are being displayed for a given search term, which types of campaigns are working, which match types, and who's interfering with whom. And there's an opportunity to compare different campaigns for the same placement if they're competing with each other, and to understand for your product, for your category, in which spot, which types of ads will work best. When working with one account or with several accounts, over time you start to notice patterns and begin to create the right campaigns and the right match types. You realize that high frequency keywords, for example, will work well for you in the top two positions, performing best in exact match, or, on the contrary, only in broad match, because it's relatively cheaper to pull in traffic that way. Or maybe exact match doesn't convert well for you. The conversion rate is low, and Amazon gives you very few impressions. But when you launch a broad match, you get 3 to 5 times more impressions, not just impressions, but also more clicks and orders. Or maybe you need to compare the conversion rate for broad match in the same spot with exact match and figure out how you'll use that valuable spot, the top, for example, for which products, for which ad campaigns, and for which match types. And this is the foundation for deep analysis. Any setup, optimization, or sales expansion, you need to ask yourself, what is being displayed in this spot? What kind of ad? What kind of ad do I need to set up? What kind of ad do I need to push? What kind of ad do I need to turn off? Because you might try turning off a certain ad spot. Maybe you have 3, 5, or even 10 ads that will keep showing up in that spot one after another. You'll keep turning them off and keep spending, spending, spending. Or, on the contrary, you didn't launch a campaign that would let you show up in this particular spot instead of your competitors. You realize that you're spending money on advertising. Not only are you spending your own money and making sales, whether you're breaking even or not, but you're also taking sales away from your competitors with your ads. In our experience, for example, we've seen cases where competitors blocked one of our parent products, and instead of our best seller getting more sales, it was actually our weaker competitors who saw an increase. Our product, the second auxiliary one that got banned, was in fourth or fifth position. Naturally, the products in second, third, and sixth place saw an increase in sales because the best seller was already getting its own sales, while the second auxiliary product was taking up additional spots in the top search results. It was showing up in carousels, in the product listings, and was taking ad sales away from our other products. A single product has limited advertising opportunities. We can't occupy every ad spot. And in this case, for example, the right decision is to split the parent listing so that there's a second parent and we can show our ads as widely as possible and expand the number of ad placements. No matter what challenge you face in Amazon advertising, you always run into the issue of ad placements. Where is it being shown? Where will it be shown? And where won't it be shown? Will it show up there if we increase the bid? What if we lower the bid? And how can we get shown there at a lower price? Or maybe it's worth paying more and not letting competitors get sales in such a prime spot. So there are a lot of questions that we'll discuss and break down in the second part of this week about overlaps. And I'd like to ask if you have any questions from your own experience or theoretical questions you can't find answers to. I see that there were quite a few messages in the chat about the problems you're facing. Try to relate your issues to ad placement and come to the webinar on Wednesday and Friday with questions that we'll be discussing. I think it'll be more interesting for everyone, and that way the course will be as useful for you as possible.